Okay, good evening, everyone. Those of you that are online and those of you that are here in person, thank you all for being here for our ad hoc meeting. It's going to, the first few things will run like a regular meeting, and then we'll be turning it over to Troy, Katie, and okay? Can everybody there hear me? Am I talking loud enough? Thank you for the validation. Okay. Okay, so we have our mission statement. Do you all want me to read it for the ad hoc meeting, or are we able to skip over it, or do we need to?
Oh,
Just read it? Okay. Okay. CCAC works together to put children first. The committee focuses on open and honest communication, improving effectiveness and accountability, identifying systemic issues, and advocating for appropriate resources. In collaboration with Frederick County Public Schools, leadership of special education, parents, FCPS staff, and community members, the committee strives to facilitate positive changes in the delivery of special education services and the success and achievements of students with disabilities. So our first agenda item is the approval of the draft meeting notes from September 18th. However, I'm not sure if we have, how many, did anybody else join online? Let's see, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, show that it's good, like 80. Some of us are not voting.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of us here at the table that are voting members, and then 9, 10, 13, 14. Okay, so we don't have enough. Okay, so we'll have to continue that over to the next agenda, which then at this point we'll turn it over to our director. Okay, who's taking the helm from here? Okay.
So, wow. Any thoughts as to why that? There we go. Not sure.
I'll just say that we really do appreciate everybody coming together for an extra meeting, because I know it's a lot of time, but you're an important stakeholder group that we really do want your feedback on our action plan, and to find out and make sure that where we're focusing aligns with where you see our needs are. And so that's what this time is to give you time to see, here's our action plan, and then to get your feedback. And so we appreciate the time that you're going to spend kind of diving in, brainstorming, and giving us that information. Because really what we're looking to create is a premier special education department where we're meeting our needs of our students with high quality and ensuring that they have what they need to be successful. And so we're hoping to do that with your partnership, because you're an important partner as well. So thank you.
So I'm going to start just with kind of our agenda about today's action plan. We did link 3 different things here for you guys to review. Some of them already went out in the CCAC chat, but just kind of one-stop shop, so you have them. You have the executive summary from PCG. In addition, you have the final report from PCG. So there's a difference of, this one's about 30-some pages, and this one's over 100 pages, so it just depends on what you want to read. And then you have linked the action plan, which I also have hard copies for you today, which outlines the goals, the recommendation, and then the essential action steps to each of those. So we're going to give you a copy of this as well today. Our hope is to do some reflection and small group reaction. There's going to be 2 ways that we're going to do this today, because we're in a hybrid format. For those of you who are virtual, there's a link to the Jamboard, which is listed right here. And each of those areas of recommendations is listed on that Jamboard for you to be able to add recommendations. Those of you who are here in person today, there are different posters that we'll break out to where you can really dive into that component of the action plan and the action steps and provide us with feedback on those. We're going to do 5 small groups. Then we'll come back together and we'll answer any of those aha questions or points for discussion that you really want us to hear, thoughts that you want us to digest. And then we want you to identify your highest priorities. As CCAC, you will be going to the Board of Education, possibly in November. Maybe if you guys decide to push that back a little bit, depending on, nope, okay. It'll be November? Okay, well, in November. So hopefully we can align priorities then so that we're kind of all working towards the same goal in that sense. This is a copy. Again, all of these are linked for you. So if you're at home and you'd rather see the visual and then link to those are there for you as well as links. It's just the executive summary, the plan, and the full audit report here as well. Oops. So here are the 5 groups that we have, whether you're online at home and going to be using the Jamboard or whether you're in person. We're going to focus on these 5 areas. So we have in group 1, multi-tiered system of support and inclusive practices, and that poster is over there to leave feedback on the action steps. Then we have group 2, and you can see this one looks like a lot, but it's a lot of structures and vision and those types of things, in addition to staffing allocations and possibly a new online IEP system and some additional training and IEP. And that poster is going to be sitting right over there on the table. So that's going to be group 2. Group 3 looks at identification practices and disproportionality in addition to specialized programs. And that's the table right behind us here. So you can leave feedback on the action items there. Group 4 is report recommendations, support centers, and parent training, and also our website. So that poster is, where did I miss it?
Oh, the one hanging here.
Oh, is back here hanging on the glass wall. And then group 5 is the last one on the table, and that's behavior support and staff well-being. So the thought is just to kind of number off and then to focus on those essential action steps aligned to your recommendation. There's sticky notes, there's markers, whatever you would like to do. I'm going to give you a hard copy too, so you can take that with you. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
And Troy did just send the actual presentation via email. So if you have that up, you can see the presentation.
Start some of these this way. Feel free to mark on this, how it's yours to keep. All right, Ms. Kara, do you want to be a 1?
Sure.
2. Are you okay?
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't the cord, it was actually the back. That I put there.
Here 2.
I thought I said 2.
Oh, we're just counting?
Yeah.
Are we going to rotate through them? 3.
So the thought is when we come back together, we'll all have time to focus on recommendations for other action steps, but we really wanted to get feedback. Are you thinking you wanted to join a special one?
Yes, there's a specific one.
Okay. So given the time, it's 6:40. We could possibly do a rotation. You guys could pick 2. Does that sound like a good idea? Okay. All right. So we're going to change it up a little bit, given some of your feedback, because I feel like some of you want to go to certain places. So we'll take about 10 to 15 minutes on rotation 1, and then I'll let you know, and you can move to rotation 2. But then please also know we're going to come back together as a whole group and really, really dive into them. So if there's something specific that you want to add to it, you can do it then. All right. Everybody good?
Do you need to share how to look at the Jamboard, or is that too soon?
I'm gonna go ahead and just share it.
Okay.
I haven't pulled out.
So here's the Jamboard for those of you at home. And again, all the recommendations are listed at the top. So here's multi-tiered system of supports, and if you click, then it'll take you to the strategic vision. From there, then you would just click and add a tab, but for some reason Troy only has view owner rights. So I will update those rights for everyone. Well,
Imagine that's.
well, it's just one thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying once you make it.
All right, you guys want to go ahead and start with your first recommendation? Do you remember where they all are? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come back and switch at about 6:55.
So the online folks are doing the Jamboard.
Yeah.
Should we check in to make sure that
I'm gonna
they?
push them into a small
Okay.
group so that I can.
Got you. Quick question.
There's a question.
So if we're at home, we like we're gonna do rotation. We pick a slide. We focus on that for the 10 minutes. Then we go to the next one, etc.
So you're just gonna focus on the recommendations for that group area. So some group areas have 2 recommendations and some have 3. So group 1 is gonna be looking at MTSS and inclusive practices. So then you would put feedback on one of those slides. Does that help?
Troy's gonna break you guys out into smaller groups. Give him a second. You're all gonna pop into your own small groups. So just-
It looks like the Jamboard's only view only.
Fixing it.
Hold on, working on it.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't want anybody to jump ahead today when I sent the presentation. It should be good to go now if you refresh.
Yeah.
Guys, nobody's moving.
I'm going.
Go, go, go.
All right.
We have to stop one and count it off. You can go wherever you want.
Yeah, we need to count.
So we're not counting, we're rotating. You can choose where. Sorry, I
Try, just go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's really, for a reason, I think it's better. And put it on page eight, you can let them go, and then make them make the groups of big numbers.
Anybody like to join me at behavior support and staff well-being? I'll be there soon.
Yeah, I think we should have done the original breakout idea. There's bigger groups that have nothing.
I'm gonna go to all of them. I'm gonna make it happen.
Okay, I don't think that's the right idea.
That's why we typically do a deep dive into one, and that way you have really the time to really think through it.
I think that's the right idea. With Nick's argument, she could just go on and what she wanted, and then we could work out the numbers. And if other people wanted, we still could have worked out the numbers, but everyone doing the one equally would be great.
So that one is.
Cool.
All right,
Very busy.
well,
Yeah, they go.
That's right.
How about this one?
There you go. There. You all work on it. And I'll come back. Let's take a look. There's a couple of things I'll show on the screen. So we created a, with our public information, we created a one-pager that has these separated out. Oh, action item. If you click on that, you can actually see the full thing. That will help you out. If you need more details of some of the goals and action items, you can actually take a look at the executive summary that I love as well. If you want more details. But then just as a reminder, you're thinking about, you like that, you have a question about that area or something else that you want to add to this particular area. And then for you all, you are focusing on identification, testing, monitoring, specialized programs, and support recommendations.
What's up? I love your necklace.
Heavy
I'm
though.
gonna go ahead and jump over to the other ones, but I'll be back in if you guys have any questions.
This is a question that everyone
Are you three good, or do you have any questions? No problem, man. So really, you all are taking on group 5, which is behavior support and staff well-being. If you all, let me share my screen really quick, and I'll show you the main references that we now have. So on this particular slide, we have now created a public-facing document, and you can click on that and enlarge it. That breaks it 5 goals down, and the particular action items of how we're going to execute behavior support and staff well-being. So then your action item, of course, is to take a look at those and say, things are interesting, you like that, or you have more questions about that, or any recommendations about how we can improve it. And then slide number 3 are your 3 main resources: the comprehensive review that's there, the executive summary, but then this new document that if you didn't get to see it earlier. So if you go to, you can zoom in on your PDF if you don't, but here's the presentation itself that I just put in the chat. And then also here is the PDF. You should be able to zoom in yourself once you open it up. You guys are just adding your thoughts on behavior support and staff well-being on the gym. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and jump over to the other group. Any other questions?
They all especially when we go
Are you guys good, or do you need help? Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'll come back and I'll send a message out when we're ready to rotate to the next recommendation, but you all have 1 and 2. Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. Yes. Everybody should be using the same uniform. Why
Yeah, it seems like it sounds like as long as we're selecting, yeah, physical education. Yeah.
Kind of like how it was.
Right. Yeah, it was really,
It's interesting.
it was very inspiring too. The reason they're on this is that where do they he's used his son. So if there's anything, oh, Hey, I see. Sons of Chris. Chris did it. Chris. Today, first home, down south, that's part of what we're talking about, his journey. How he went from. To 6 months.
My question.
It's just, if it was really inspiring, he did the first time.
Did you look at people's?
Structure. Those are really good. He was the close and speak for him. Yeah. Yeah, and then last Sunday. Six, he did 6 marathons. He did 6 marathons. So, very impressive. This was not. Initial. Really excited. Saw speakers. ESPN.
What area?
Very. Yes. But they originally
But they add cleats, right? They add to the training development. A facelift, yes, I like
He was going for it. I was kidding around. I said, because I had met her. But their ESPN piece is on.
So it's really organization, partner, special education, organization.
Some of but I just think it's amazing.
You do? I love it. I love research.
Broad spectrum of services. That's what
I
try to explain.
the discussion that I'm sure you had with John and Patty was which is what? Writing in orange. She knows.
That's neat.
I know. The old Mr. Sketchers.
That's what
Word of my thinking. I don't
Have
know.
conversations. Be able to have conversations.
One single communication, they're going to develop it.
It's easier around budget.
Continuity. You have consistency.
She just really wants us to know that we want consistency. Like, yeah, you can see that consistency.
Yeah, that's fine.
One of our missions as CCAC is to advocate for resources.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out.
Yeah, for me, that's the best part.
I wonder if there's somebody on your staff who could show me how to set up, so I could look at it and say, for example, compare this year. Because of the students, for example, school, the number of new students in special ed. It's just things like that, see how the resources. And
Good job.
figure it out, which things are set up.
You've seen like the second.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Right.
That was the other one.
Within that framework, I like to satisfy myself. It's even here that being done should be done.
And also know that we're looking at the staffing.
That's why it's the school.
Our ongoing. But you need to get staffing.
Other countries. They have budgets, the resources. We're probably deciding how much the county gets. They're out of budget.
This is president.
How would they allocate that help? You know, there was some secret. That is
Figured out some role, weight.
We get money for something to do.
Started crawling, started walking, that's it, calm down, so you should, you can tell the sense of what you straight out. We continue to push it to the next grade.
There's no place you can go and look at the budget.
She knows herself. She was no nonsense. She was also.
Oh, I learned how to read it.
Yeah, we can't.
Or Collins said, well, just between the county second grade, because they're one who made that number, it's basically. A lot of staff here.
So like, you might get something. Like a second grade.
So, more than three. Like, they used to take those hours, so I got here,
Yeah.
it's that I spent 5 hours and have to took 30 minutes to do my first thing. Right.
The entire.
Like, you already. Right.
Yeah.
But.
Services right now, especially on just broad sort of.
The overarching must do and right.
And their constituents.
But what their rights might look like is the sequence of pictures as well as the word IEP. And it's sequencing 3 of those pictures. And you can look at the believer or not. So I'll show you which part lines and which parts of the words you read. It's so bare. Anna almost is too much. Principal is kind of too like, right? Yeah. That's how we need an online system. More counties start doing it. County to county, state to state. The fact that it's so vast. It's hard. You know what you're doing. And you're just like,
No, and I think we're doing a better job.
So it's definitely. I give money for this. State.
Yeah. That's why I thought. And no signs.
I was going to start with running, just pull it off. 7 years.
Tomorrow night, they're
If she doesn't know how to read it, she's got to know how to find a combination as well.
no promise.
And I can tell you that's the case across the country. I have friends who are teachers who were like, I saw an IEP once when I was going through school, and then I got my first kid with one 5 years into teaching, and I had no idea how to read it, and then went to the case editor, and the case editor said it was time for me, and so I had to go online and figure it out myself. I was like, that's not okay. Your school should be training you. And teachers should be aware of it. Like one teacher was like, I wasn't allowing him to do something. Unacceptable. She was like, I felt horrible because the student complained about it. But I didn't know. And like, and hopefully you were able to explain that because I know it's our teacher. You're wonderful. Like, there's no way you would have been asking him to stop tapping like that. He has a STEM toy and he needed it. Instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna move you here. Same place, sorry, I don't mean to be rating over you. They don't know that they can be excited to the application. Because the art teacher, same art teacher suggested art therapy, talked to the parent about it, they had the AP meeting, art therapy got accepted, but she was like, I learned about it after, and then because the parents didn't know that they couldn't, like, she didn't know that she couldn't. Nobody, I'm like, you're the one who recommended it. Like, why would you not be there? And even if you didn't recommend it, you should be there because you're the art teacher. So you can say, here's what I learned, or here's my data. Even if it's anecdotal data, it's still data. Repeatable.
They compare it.
Training and should include knowing that they can be invited to meetings, which should also go into the parent training. That they can, the art teacher, or music teacher, yeah. Because I specifically got music therapy, and I said I would like a music teacher who also has the IEP meeting for us to be submit notes. Because I understand there's a staffing issue there too, I understand that. But she was able to come
She validated everything. We were saying she validated everything. You were sharing this all, but it was and they used to have that extra and county. My son. They do.
But that's Maryland. That's where counties are big schools. The ADC system. I was in Georgia. I did it in their own. The state offered its free system.
I know it's been a. When did it become often?
In the 2016. Yeah. So if you count like so no, you're right. There's a, Army is on it, PG County is in it, and then yeah, no, they follow their upset. See, the only difference is like, so for instance, we just like, when they do all that stuff instead of being able to just log in straight.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Not in another state. They had a state portal where you like, okay, let me look at
Yeah.
Hey, they're better than Sharpies.
They are.
Yeah.
That was the second part that we were asking, if we're looking for.
But it's still LEA, local education agency.
But I kind of have a conflicting.
They have a right to that data, so you always have, just like, so for instance, we have our own student information system, not everyone uses our systems, we use it, it's the same thing, so we've maxed out the top.
Because I was gonna ask about Moe.
Yeah. They just, you know. It is an easy way for them.
Yes.
It's
It's a standard format.
Yeah, so that's one of the things though, that for instance, like when you move to a system, that system still has to meet all OMR standards. So when they're developing the IEP form, it still has, they cannot miss one thing. Otherwise, we could be deemed non-compliant and having a non-compliant IEP. So, but that's, when you start working out, companies that have to, that's what they'll say. That would be a bare minimum. They have to meet those requirements, but like for instance,
I love the code.
when we talked about moving, we said, hey, would you guys give us a parent portal? What if we help, what if we pay? Because we're not, we don't pay, they're like, you can do it. Because because it's actually John Hopkins. And so every year they have a consortium get together, it's like, hey, these are the things we would like. They might take you to it. So, yeah. So but there's no requirement.
There was something.
No, that's changed.
It's 2024. I just got it updated 2024.
There's, if you're saying 9 out of 10, there's no.
Updated.
What do you mean? Oh, that they're saying that they're gonna talk
You guys
about
didn't go to
it.
any other.
No, it's already updated.
Oh, yeah, but
I think she'll be able to
Articulate.
I was just, no, I was just saying like, how did they get a year 2024? And it's even streams. I don't know what that. Oh, it's weird. Hey, it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah. I understand.
Just that one.
Yeah, just that one. It's just that
Oh,
one.
there we go.
No, it's just that one, sorry. I know, that's why I went over there to make sure there's stuff written there. I got tons of stuff. Yeah, I thought this was like, this is where.
Well, look, if
We're fine.
We're fine.
I mean, it's kind of generically done, but it's just, I'm just.
She said.
I did.
Things that I've done before.
You need to go see.
On page 15, where it says shortage is very steady. You mean between the schools?
It would make sense to take everything.
Oh,
good, thank
But
you.
I don't know if anybody else did, because I can't.
Two passions.
And so far, no plans to stand in or
I think, you know, we had.
just. I thought I did such a good thing by doing this.
But other than that, like.
I mean, if you have
one, say on the thing, just say
For now, until we.
Right, yeah.
So
is that the defining expanded service models? Is that the one we would choose to that?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
They're not cheaper.
What I was thinking is
In order to like.
I'm temporarily.
That's all, that's all.
I don't know if you call it.
We called it, yeah. One district called it score. The next district.
No, just you have to not do it on the agenda. Like, the ones that I went to
But
read.
yeah, but scores.
And something. Agenda, I saw it on the news.
Well, and then a lot of students, yeah, they would, I mean, really, honestly, they were concentrating on middle
I guess if
school.
it lasts
Some
me,
people
right?
were offered.
I think they might have.
Program.
No, there's only one.
You gotta get
Make a copy.
Yep.
Make a copy.
Me too.
It doesn't get right
Maybe
on.
get some.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta make a copy.
Not even Google.
They're also colored.
Right. Those of you who are virtual, can you guys hear us? Awesome. Thanks for joining and thanks for participating on the Jamboard. Those of you at home and those of you who were here, thank you for participating in person on those posters. And I know that we didn't kind of stick to the recommendations of going to one assigned poster, but I think it worked out. We got feedback on all of them, so that's the good news. I'm just going to open it up for general questions or feedback at this time because it is 7:15 right now. And then we want to hear kind of what you guys thought, any things that we need to take into consideration. And the last activity is going to be trying to see what you want prioritized from this action plan. So I'll give you another copy of the action plan that you can kind of mark up with some notations that I have. But before we do that, what questions or thoughts did you have in regards to the recommendation action plans? Things that we can clarify. Go ahead, I know.
No, nothing for clarification. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a lot of information, so know that this is not the only time that you're going to have a chance to provide feedback. There is a QR code on the back of the action plan that will go live, and that's a survey link. So you'll have an opportunity. There's going to be a find out first that goes out to the whole community as well. But again, you guys are an important group to get feedback from, so we wanted to start with you.
And it's in here, sorry. Is this based on like a 3 to 5 year plan? Is that what these are all looking at, based on that recommendation, or?
It's going to take time. Some of them are already achieved. And as Troy just showed numerically, it's going to extend 5 years realistically.
I know.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure expectations are set that this plan is not like, it's going to happen next school year. So just want to say that loud.
Thank you.
Yeah. We all wish.
No, that's a good point. Like one of the things that we recently did with PCG was like as we said, okay, what when would be a good year for her to implement this? And so they have created a Gantt chart that says every single action item. So of course, now we have to look at that and visualize how we're prioritizing over the 5 to 8 years as well.
One of the things I appreciated, and I saw like amongst a lot of different pieces of feedback in different areas, is consistency. So I think what I hear a lot of you saying and representing, whether it's on the paper or on the Jamboard or just in conversation, is that you're really looking for consistency across the board, whether that's implications of an IEP or specialized programs, or just supports that are offered to students. You're looking for that consistency. So I've read that in a bunch of different things as well. That's great.
But I would let you know that one of the, that I saw that thread, and I think that's totally a through line. And just to let you know, I was one of the people that volunteered to participate in the equity study. And that came up a lot in this one group I was on in the equity study about consistency between schools, between schooling levels, not only in special education, but in all areas of supports for students. So I don't think it's something that's just in special education. It's often we talk about like what happens at middle school, even in simple systems, they're not the same at the elementary level or the high school level, or what happens at Brunswick is markedly different than Middletown. And it wasn't just special education. I don't know if that's, I think that shows kind of like a greater stemming problem that we have as a functioning system, but we're also not alone. Just, it's not just special ed that's trying to overcome that. I thought that was really interesting when I was in my group. That came up.
There's some people.
Raise their hand. Mark, Jake, and Mark.
Ms. Marlena, would you like to go first?
All right. Yes, thank you. So my question is, how much weight are we giving these recommendations? Because some of these are very similar to what was in the blueprint, what was in the task force, like staffing. Like every year we ask for more staffing. We got some, then the budget restrictions, we had to lose some. You know, every year we ask to expand the specialized programs and have more SCIAs. So just how seriously is the Board of Education going to take these recommendations, are we thinking?
So I think that's some of the feedback that we're trying to obtain. And one of the activities we're going to do in a few minutes is we kind of want to see like what you really want to emphasize or what you find interesting or what you might have more questions on. So just kind of as a collective group, where are you really thinking that you want to prioritize the efforts? Because again, this is not a short-term plan. This is a short-term to long-term plan. So then it's going to be taking all of those recommendations and trying to figure out how to strategically implement those so that it makes sense with funding and allocations that are given to support students and staff in the implementation and changes that we want to make. Jake, do you want to go next?
Sure. This might be a little specific, but under goal 5, behavioral support, I saw a bullet that said, identify additional positions necessary for meeting the needs of special education students throughout the system. I guess my question is, how would FCPS go about doing that? Go about identifying those additional positions? Because the wording seemed a little broad. And I was just kind of wondering, would that be purely a need-based thing, or would it be identified through any other methods?
Yes, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Jake. So we are really going to do a deep dive into our staffing in general. And I know we have a whole separate under goal 2 for staffing allocation. So this kind of falls into that as well. But we want to look at how are we staffing our schools, from our special education teachers to SEIAs to our behavior support folks to BCBAs, et cetera. Really doing a deep dive into the model of how we staff and looking at the research and then evaluating what do we need to have, what does every school need. You know, one of the things that I know Mr. Keller's talked about is how some school systems have an SDI specialist, or especially design instruction specialist. And so we're trying to look like outside, like looking outside the box to say, really what do we need in all of our schools. And so it's going to be really a year or so for us to really do a deep dive into our staffing. And so that's what we're going to look at to say, in order to have behavior support and to make sure that our schools have the tools and the expertise necessary, what type of staffing do they need to have, and how many of that staffing is needed and necessary. So that's kind of why it's broad, because we're not really exactly sure exactly where our research and our evaluation, when we look at our models, where exactly take us. Because what we want to do is to look at our the research and what it tells us that we need, as well as responding to our students and our staff and what they need, and then even looking to some of our neighboring counties to see how do they staff and what do we feel like will be helpful. We don't want to be closed, we want to be visionary. Sorry.
Does that include things like looking at more co-teaching, more at certifications and paraprofessionals in the SEIA rule instead of just an SEIA that gets kind of on the job training, looking at like employing more RBTs that are actually RBTs and having them work with kids that aren't autistic, because RBTs can work with anyone, they just don't in the medical world.
All of the above.
That kind of stuff. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. I will say that we have already hired a coordinator for special programs, and she's already started like really diving into co-teaching. She's doing research. She's in the research part of it now, looking at what are the research of co-teaching models, and then she's going to go out and do observations about what does co-teaching look like across our district. And we really want to raise and kind of create model classrooms of co-teaching, so that we create those situations to help to really deepen the co-planning, the co-teaching, etc.
And all of our 11-month CAs are actually going through
Yeah,
RBT
yeah.
coursework. It's just, in order to have an RBT credential in your district, you have to have enough PCAs to maintain supervision.
Yeah. Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
With the co-teaching that's currently happening, one of the things that I see that I think is helpful, but also a deficit, is a lot of our special educators who are case managers are co-teaching. And the level at which they're co-teaching is prohibiting them from pushing in with their current caseload and supporting their students the way they want to. Because I only have this one class where I can reach my 20 kids I'm in charge of. So, and some of them are great co-teachers, but that's something I think is definitely a deficit that's happening in taxing our teachers in terms of their well-being and able to serve our kids.
Hence the reason that's going to take us time to really look at our staffing model and really determine.
Yeah, because them pushing in as needed with their students while there's other co-teachers is a dream. But I mean, why not put the dream down of?
I just wanted to make a comment that I did read all of it except the last 20 pages of the full report.
Kudos to you.
But one of the things, okay, so what I appreciated the most were the direct bullet points of what I like to refer to as street data from the stakeholders. But one of the key groups of stakeholders that I saw that was missing were our students. There are many students in co-teaching classes, even in some of our students that struggle with communication. Their behavior that they're showing us is the way that they communicate, and that is data in and of itself. So I think that moving forward, there needs to be some data from the students, because they will tell you how they learn best. Many of them know because they've had wonderful teachers that have said, this is how you learn the best. And they can say, I really need to do this test here, or I really need to do this, or they pulled my co-teacher 3 times and that's why I can't do this. And then that grade shouldn't count against them. So I think that we need to hear from the students.
Yeah.
I have excellent thoughts.
Could you share with us the name of the new coordinator for special programs?
Barbara Freelander. Barbara Freelander. Yes. Yep. She's retired from Montgomery County.
I know Barbara.
Yeah. She's fantastic.
She is.
I'll ask a question. I have a question about someone I didn't say, so maybe somebody's. When you guys looked at the individual, the IEP programs, like in terms of technology, I know that we have a program that we use. I know it's not loved by all, by any means. I know you guys are looking at it, but like in terms of looking at other programs Are we looking at other programs within the state, outside of the state? Are we looking at developing something new? Are you looking at only things that are used by the school, or something that would have a home interface in terms of consistent communications about goals, a way to like capture this happened in class today? I'm gonna add it to the IEP right now, so it's there for the meeting, and push it to the students so their parents can look at it at home. Like, how creative are you guys thinking about this program for IEPs?
So Troy and Katie have just completed all the paperwork to do a request for proposal, an RFP, that'll be posted. And you'll see many of the things that you just listed, they took the time to really populate all of that. So that request for proposal will be out there. You'll be able to see what all it is that we're looking for. But yes, part of what they really emphasized was the parent portal.
Because I know different counties use different things, but it sounds like there are highs and lows everywhere. So are you guys even open to like creating something new?
So that's one of the things that we built into so basically what we created were business requirements. And so we're saying that whatever company is out there, we want these things, and you must be able to do these things. And to your point, we asked for customization. So I had a prior system that every year you would work with the vendor to say, we need to have this type of bit form, or we need to be able to do this type of form so that our parents can, be able to read the IEP very clearly. And so they make those customizations. So we don't want something just right off the shelf. We want to be able to your point, customize it for SCPS needs. And that's one of the really biggest downfalls of OIEP is that they can take our feedback, but they won't do the changes. They might take, a couple of changes here and there a year for the whole state. And so this would allow us to work with the company that says we can do all this, and we can prove that we can do all this, and we meet all the necessary security requirements, et cetera, to be able to work in Maryland.
And give resources, I'm assuming just knowing the two of you a little bit that I do, resources for the teachers and case managers saying, I need to create this. Like, has it already been created? Does it exist in here? Is like a bank of resource data forms, things like that?
So that would be one of the biggest pieces of moving to a new system is creating a whole brand new how to write a legally defensible IEP, incorporated with how do you integrate that into a new system.
And data,
so that would be
tracking and all that.
That would be a brand new professional learning that we would have to roll out to all stakeholders that have to go into our system where they can start using the system.
You all considered if these have to be transferred out of state, much less in-state to another county, if our customized IEP?
So the way that every public agency works is that you must meet the bare minimum state requirements of. So for instance, that's another thing that this vendor will have to say, regardless of how it's ordered. So like even though you look at an IEP now, we're so used to looking at MOIEP, but for instance, we get out-of-state IEPs all the time. And we have to evaluate, does it meet our state COMAR requirements? Does it even meet our FCPS requirements? And if not, for instance, we may say, hey parent, we're gonna start special education services, but we need updated testing. So that would be the same process. It would have to meet everything within COMAR. Obviously the way our IEP forms that prints out moving forward might look, different, but it's still gonna meet every single requirement that's within IDA and COMAR.
Thank you. Would part of looking at a new system also be helping for consistency with how goals are written and how data is collected and shared? Because some people's data is data and some people's data is thoughts.
And that would be a really awesome way for us to refresh and start over, because having a system, and for instance, so many people are so used to providing anecdotal information, but a lot of systems require numerical entries only for a progress report. And so that would be a change of practice that all of our teachers would have to pick up on. And so that would, of course, then dovetail with our professional learning about how do you help support with, goal writing, progress monitoring, et cetera.
Well, make it work. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Very good. I'm so excited to see that RFP and hear what you guys think. I am in
long.
I got it to the procurement yesterday.
That I think that's very exciting.
Well, it's just like any process. They're going to advertise to the board that they're going to be pushing it out, and then it'll be pushed out. Of course, usually it's out for a month or so. Companies submit a bid, And we actually are gonna ask for a CCAC representative to be on the rating. The review of the, what is it, records, or I forget what it's called. Basically, you'll get to be a part of scoring and choosing our next company that will help us.
There's some excitement.
You like it when you do it.
With the new system, also, like facilitate the workload, because I saw a lot of, workload analysis, so would that also target that?
So, and that's one of the things that we'll want, is that it's user intuitive. Having worked in other systems, that was really huge for our teachers. Is like, we used to call them like breadcrumbs, and it would tell you like how much percentage of the IEP you had finished. You could copy over certain components from last year's IEP. But even like one of the things is a lot of new systems now have dynamic translation built in. So that's going to help out with our translation services. Parents will, like, one of the things that we're asking for is having a parent portal so that you get notified that the progress report is ready and things like that.
I think that just consistency wise and equity wise would make a huge difference for everyone that's in an IEP or going through an IEP process. And then I'm sure there's something like that for 504s as well, but supporting 504s in a similar manner, because I think we often talk IEPs, but I think I look at them as sisters or brothers or siblings. That would be necessary as well.
And that's actually a whole other thing that we're looking into, is potentially moving into a new student information system. So if we do that, we'll have to get a new 504 system.
Because depending on how robust your 504 can get.
Just looking at this from like, I know you guys were looking for some feedback, and I think that also, so you guys know, Dawn and I are also trying to cobble together some things for you all then to look at for what our recommendations are going to be, and obviously a lot of it's going to be from this and other conversations. But if I were to like just outline some things that I feel like I heard recurring themes, not just this year, but even last year and the year before, the inclusive practices have come up for multiple years. I guess a specialized programming, specifically like at the deep dive, to make sure that the right kids are in the right placements, and either like the expansion of a RISE like, or whatever we want to call it, executive functioning, social type, skills type, whether it's a program or just, I don't know, like you were saying, there's in some schools it wouldn't necessarily have to be a full program. There could also be like an elective that did these things, and all these kids that needed this type of thing would be the elective they would get, or something like that. But I feel like that piece, for what I guess what I used to call like the extreme ADHDers, I don't like the word high functioning, but high functioning autism, like that group of kids that tend to like just fall below everything. Always the ones that like too much but not enough type of stuff. And then behavior support. Those are like the three. Yeah. I mean, they're all important. I don't know how to like rank them, but yeah. And staffing. Staffing seems to fit under all of these. It's like you can't get any of it done unless you have the staff. Are there any parts of this? Do you guys want more? I know that there's notes everywhere and you're collecting everything too, but anything that anybody wanted to just get more detail on?
I would just like to hear in terms of, I know you're doing this with us, and I'm sure you're doing this with lots of people, but have you had any educators that are in the classrooms come forward and really want to like dig into this or be vocal in some of these goals, or are our staff and teachers hesitant? Like, what kind of feedback are you getting from the folks we're trying to support?
So we did meet with them. We have a special education, special education teacher work group with our association. So we went through kind of like a similar activity. Now they did do a dive into one, like we were talking about, and then each of them kind of presented their recommendation and then talked about what they really saw as a highlight in some areas of growth. So we really felt like they were like a targeted group, like you all are, to give us that high quality feedback on exactly where they felt like we were with this and where we needed to focus our time and energy. And then whenever we send out the survey, it'll go to all teachers. It'll go to the community, it'll go to teachers, students can have the opportunity to take it. So really any voice can be heard from whenever the survey goes out. We're going to plan to do that. We wanted to wait until after we had your feedback in case you gave us anything that we needed to tweak with this. So it'd be time for us to utilize your feedback to update this. And then we're going to get get it to the board, and then we're gonna send it out to the community, and again, all teachers can give us feedback, and that's what we're gonna encourage.
For goal number 4, just in your general sense, is there any, I haven't read the whole report, all even the pages. Proactive steps.
Technically, I still have 20 more to do, though, so 20 more pages.
Proactive steps to reach the parents that might be more, that might not intentionally engage themselves. Because I feel like that's been a constant problem for as long as my son's 10. When I got first involved as a single dad, like I was shell shocked and just trying to keep my head above water. Like those resources might have been sent home in flyers or whatever, but I didn't see them. I was just trying to make it through the day every day, right? Some sort of way. And then there's also probably, unfortunately, parents that are less engaged also and just aren't going to read those flyers and aren't going to want like some sort of, we can't leave those children behind. So some sort of a way to almost force feed it to these parents when their child gets enrolled in ways that we can do that.
A personal goal.
Yeah, like hey, your son really could benefit from you giving us some feedback from this survey, and or you coming into this training. We talked about parent training opportunities. Like we could, you're training, you're coming in and learning this. Some sort of way to, proactively reach those parents. Because if we just provide all the resources we want, you're not going to get everyone engaged.
Like right now we now have 2 partners for success. So Rachel will now have a partner. The person starts on November 1st. Our goal is to at least get where we have 4, so we can at least kind of break the county up into 4, and then they can do more outreach. And she's already working on her website and trying to have more resources there, and then to really introduce herself. And so her goal, she's going to get on with principals and kind of introduce herself to principals so that she can get out there so people know who she is. And so we're trying to think outside the box as to how to reach some of those families, because you're right, it is really hard.
We have a hand up.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry, guys. If you wanted to keep going, I can wait a little
Yeah,
bit.
go ahead.
So I saw a bullet on peer coaching and mentoring for teachers. Would that process involve working directly with students, or would that be just specific to teachers working with other teachers or staff?
Right now, it is to help and support our new teachers. And so we developed a mentoring program where each special education teacher has a regular mentor in their building, but also a special education teacher who's a mentor, really content knowledge. So it is more specific to teachers, but it sounds like, Jake, maybe you're asking because you're thinking that you may have an idea as to how we can do something for students. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
I think I'm not sure if I have a concrete idea yet, but I think it's definitely something to consider. Especially, with new teachers, I think that ability to work hands-on with students is something that could really benefit them.
Absolutely.
I have an outside the box idea for your Partners for Success. It's a little quirky and a little even for me. What if Rachel or the Rachels of the world recorded a 2-minute, hi, this is who I am, this is what I can do for you. And at the IEP meeting, no matter what IEP meeting it was, when the welcome happened, whoever leads it introduces you to Rachel, gives you her contact information, and then you have a face and a name, and you know that person's sincere, because Rachel can't lie about how much she loves to support people, and I would assume anyone in that role is sincere, because everyone I've known in that role has been that way. But a little outside the box, but something that gives a little bit of a personal delivery, and it might be the first IEP meeting of every year, whoever that person is for that school or for the county or whatever. It sounds a little like hokey to me, but at the same time, it's a little personal, and it puts her face in front of the parent. Whereas I think all the educators need to know who Rachel is, because I've been astonished when they don't know who she is, even special educators. But I think the number of parents and having a way for it to be translated into whatever language is the other deficit I've seen a lot, even at the elementary level, is when you have a parent who English is a second language, they come to the IEP meeting, they don't know they can have a translator. They don't know what's going on. They just blankly say yes. And so they don't know if they should be asking for more or what questions. And there's no one there to help them. And the translator can only translate. But the Rachels of the world can.
Our second one,
Yeah. So I give that as a really weird out of the box idea.
I don't think it's weird, honestly.
I would love for a
We
Rachel to
just
say.
implemented that with my role in my company,
Where
where I have a short video saying who I am, and then I send out an email. Obviously, we don't need to give parents more emails, but to just say Rachel's here to support you, or new Rachel is here to support you.
and then
Like,
even
what
if it's
does
not-
that mean?
Even if
So
there's
for
like
her
a
to
flyer
say,
that walks through.
I'm here to support you by running, you know, the parent support groups there this time and this time, and I can help you with this, and I can help you.
Yeah, and then there's
3
a-
or 4 points where,
there's one of
and then
these.
if you need more, contact me.
She has updated your website,
Yeah.
found if you haven't seen it. That's
Yeah,
great.
and maybe there's one of these that inside it's how to sign up for Find Out First, how to get special education. Here's my website.
Kind of back to Dustin's point about reaching the unreachable parents. I think that in a perfect world, if we can get all these goals met, creating an inclusive community where the teachers have the training they need and all the staff is on board and the parents are being reached out to and the students are involved. When you create an inclusive school community, those parents aren't going to be as hard to reach. You're still going to have people, don't get me wrong. But when you feel supported by your community, you're more likely to not reach to your
Your
community.
overwhelmed parent will be able to see it.
Might be a little bit more intrusive, but I think there's also ways to reverse engineer the data to figure out the engagement level.
I don't
Based
agree
on,
with you.
based on like,
Your school case manager knows whose kids come.
right, who's coming to meetings, who's coming to the parent teacher, you know, we take that data and then reverse engineer, okay, so who's not showing?
Your school case manager
And,
can tell you that.
and how do we target that specifically to make sure that they're seeing the research?
I'm gonna interrupt for a second. Kim has her hand raised on the screen, and then I've also been waiting patiently to say something. So, but I'm gonna let Kim.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. I just wanted to respond in 2 ways. One was to who asked about staff their input being asked for in the process. And yes, we were given opportunities to do surveys and through email. Also, my colleagues at TJ High School gave me information and I presented, and I missed the last meeting. There's a letter with 3 requests that they made knowing that CCAC has supported us in the past. And I'll present that at the next meeting. So that was the more support requested from the specialized programs perspective. And also on December 7th, I sent out an invite to come to our transition fair and would love for CCAC members to come there to have an opportunity to talk to families about the experience from your different perspectives, especially family support. I'd love for our membership program who want to have more parents involved with CCAC. That would be a perfect opportunity to talk to parents who are coming to our transition fair that evening that we've invited pretty much anyone across the county to attend. It's going to be on December 7th.
Is it during the day or?
December 7th.
7th, yes, from 6 to 7:30. It's an evening in our media center. Yeah, and I added it to our CCAC.
Yes, you did, and I put it on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Under the FCPS staff one, it's right there.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if the letter got put up, but I can add that in order to discuss at the next meeting.
I think we missed it, but we'll put it on the agenda, or we'll at least bring it up in that section.
Thank you.
Okay, I had 2 things. First, to piggyback off of helping families and having a person that can kind of guide them through the process. I really feel that the first thing has to be at the school level so that the family feels like you want my child here, you want to help my child. Well, I think it's great to give out the Partners for Success information. We all know that that initial time, that child find referral, the initial evaluation, the initial IEP, that is all daunting and overwhelming. And so there needs to be someone at the school, if it is the department chair, somebody that is freed up more to do that in order to be that person, to take that family through that whole first part of this is now the world that we live in, kind of shock and awe that happens. As a parent of a child with an IEP and as that person in my building that does that for families, calling afterwards, hey, I know I gave you a lot of information. What do you have for me? What are the questions? How can I help you?
Yeah, and I know that family support, not just Rachel's team, but at the state level, I mean, their recommendations when they should be communicating it with, have you spoken to your special education teacher first? So I think maybe it's a kind of message. She's a friendly face. I don't know who the other one is, but it might even be enough to say, you know, hey, we exist, but as a friendly face who you may be able to trust as a fellow, you know, not in your school, you know, your special educators really are your first line to help you out, and they help them give that message. Because sometimes it helped coming from kind of like a neutral party that wasn't in there in the moment.
If that point of contact like you're talking about that exists at the school, and it's something noted like on the school directory online or on the handbook that goes out at the beginning of the year when you start at your school, if it's also who you go to if you think your kid needs help. Because I've had several people recently tell me, my child needs help, I know they need help, I go in, the school tells me I'm wrong. I'm wrong, there's no reason for you to even do this. Then they have to fight to get an eligibility meeting or fight to get are we eligible for a 504 meeting, when really it should be the other way around. Oh, you really feel there's an issue? Let's get the team together and let's really look at what's going on, not let's just say what we've observed over 3 days of time with your kid, when you've obviously been with your kid for well more. So I think there's also that disparity happening. So if there was a point of contact for I need help, and it was somebody who generally wants to provide the help instead of just someone who's like,
I'm glad you said that. That's happening to my granddaughter right now.
yeah, I have a provider in my home that this happens to.
I guess kind of the whole point that I was trying to make or taking is that parents can feel so shell shocked that it needs to be that proactive on the teacher's side. So maybe there's even a way for that person that Dawn's speaking of almost be like a sales job where they are incentivized by the more meetings that they set up. Like you literally, the more meetings with parents that they set up, like the more they, you know, PTO they get or whatever.
And there needs to be familiar faces.
Yeah.
That's part of just every part of that. I mean, it's specific to my county. I don't think they have Ritzies in other counties. I know that the department head, who's my daughter's case manager, also teaches. I'm fully released, so it allows me to do certain things.
Also keeping in mind too, that I'm glad you have 2 people now that are Rachel's. But I also know that when I held that position and even less people knew about me, I guarantee I was on the phone all day long talking to parents. And that was just then when people I was finally able to reach out to. So keeping in mind that if we're going to promote this in every meeting, like we're gonna outwork that position very, very quickly as well. Yes, that's a balance. And are they the right people to answer those questions to Dawn's point? Like, should it be, I mean, tweaking the roles of people within the building to be that first line and then like let the additional training be part of it.
Also, I wanted to add that in some cultures also asking for help is not necessarily, you know, accepted. And I'm also talking about cultures where there's nothing, so, you know, men have different roles than women, and they accept things differently. So keeping that in mind, also that, I think it's called culturality, I don't know the term, but you know, that is something to take into account with reaching out of different families and people.
Well, the information on these posters typed up or pictures taken, or for people that didn't get to see all of them? Like, I walked around, but I know that not everyone saw everybody's feedback.
So we'll just put it together.
Okay.
Because we have the jam boards.
Because like we put it all.
Yeah.
We could even type, I don't know how it works, I don't know if somebody you could help with, but type the notes into a Jamboard. And then the Jamboard you could print all it, so you have it all written. I don't know if that would be helpful to you guys, and sometimes you look that thing out. I know it's great for capturing, but then to change the data over to a digital version.
And then we have the jam board from the FCTA work group too, so we just keep kind of.
Were there any major through lines when you met with the teachers? You looked at these things, like, were there major takeaways if you were like, this was consistent message that we're hearing and looking at all the goals, or this is an overarching concern or something they're really fired up about working on? Or just general, like, yeah.
It's sometimes dependent upon the step who you're in front of at that moment.
Yeah.
Some people are very excited about the possibility of a new online system for work efficiencies, and the parents were the last step of it. And you have other people who are very passionate about expanding programs and staffing aspects of it. So it really does depend on who you're speaking to in that moment. But some of the same trends that you outlined today are the same trends that we're seeing across staff as well. I don't know how to get out of this.
Go up to the top and click that X.
Maybe.
Go above Jake's head. And then you'll see that X. I saw it pop up a minute ago.
Which way is telling you? Oh, there it is. Got it. Thank you, Troy.
Where was it? Above his head.
That was good. Right over Jake's head.
Sorry, Jake. We were used as a point of reference.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna kind of say something. Marlena brought up a good point. She asked about the board. And what I will say is the board is fully engaged in the feedback and input that we receive from your committee. It's one of the most important committees, and it's important for me to be here occasionally because I'm just excited by the feedback and the passion that I see in each member of this committee and how open you are to sharing ideas. And you know, every time, like when we've got the report on the audit, the first thing that comes to me is what did CCAC think? I mean, that's every time I get something, I think, what does CCAC think? So there is a 100% engagement from the board on the work that this committee does. And we really value all of your input and appreciate every time Katie and Troy come to us and Ms. Bingman come to us with a presentation. We recognize that a lot of that came from you guys. So I just want you to know that as we move forward with this process, we really appreciate and acknowledge that a lot of the information is being provided from you guys. Thank you for that.
The reflection is always good. So in the next couple of minutes, this is a teacher trick, right? So you might see this, but on your actual document where the action steps are, and I'll give you another copy to take home so that you don't feel like you're giving me your only copy. But if you found something interesting, just put an exclamation mark next to it. If you really liked something, put a smiley face next to it. And if you have a question, can you put a question mark next to it? Not the whole document, please. I know. I can see you laughing over there. Just so we can kind of focus too on individual feedback. We have collected feedback about expansion of ideas and clarification, but once I have that from you, then I can collect it and I'll give you a new copy, of course. But just some reflection time.
I actually have a clarification conversation that I think I would like to ask about with regards to your developing new vision. I had gone through, I would like to email this, or I could give you this hard copy that I brought with me of a lot of the work that I did behind looking up a lot of what was on the checkoff sheet provided to us. You all have two different messages that you do present to the public. First, you have your special education handbook, and then you have your website. Which vision are you expressing?
Neither.
Well, then in that case, what will you be expressing?
I think that's why it came forward as a recommendation via the audit, was that we did need to really kind of condense that and decide what is our vision and be more clear about it. So that's what we're really working on. So the most current version of it is on this action plan. So if you have feedback on that, that's what we're working on, kind of refining, as that was part of the recommendation. So, and then once we have that solidified, it'll be replaced in all those areas that you were saying you see it.
Okay.
But that's why it's different.
Is this a consistency issue? Now, I doubt it, because you've got people, you all look at every little thing as far as that goes, so I was wondering.
It's a good question.
Vision, yeah. Speaking the same, that's right. I got another one. These are all just for clarification purposes. I'm not trying to make trouble or grill anybody, but maybe. The FCPS Tier 1 of instruction on the core curriculum, there is universal design for learning peppered throughout these multiple tiers. And from what I understand, UDL promotes the concept that what is good for some is good for all, and was proposed as a means for including students with disabilities in the gen ed classroom. And I feel the conflict that comes with that concept is that in special ed, no one size fits all. What is good for some students may not, in fact, be good for others. So my question would be, how has FCPS worked to resolve this concept, conflict, and use UDL to provide special education students with what they need and what they'll benefit from?
So the philosophy of UDL is not necessarily geared towards students with disabilities. It's geared towards everyone as a tiered 1 differentiated strategy. One of the things that we have to work and improve upon is specially designed instruction, because that's when you get into the I in IEP. And so those are the components that are built throughout all tiers of understanding how to implement the student's SDI. UDL is just a differentiation strategy that everyone should be taught, so that any good teacher most of the time uses some form of UDL strategies. And so that's really the backing behind UDL. It's not saying this is a special education framework. Makes sense? Because special ed doesn't own MTSS or Tier 1. That comes from curriculum. And so we, of course, are helping support, like, what are other supplemental ways that we can ensure that we have a robust Tier 1, so that students don't necessarily have to get Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports, but if they need it, it's available.
What's great is we're having conversations with our curriculum partners and having these exact conversations. So we just presented, I think it was last week, about
In the last 2 weeks.
yeah, it's been recently. So we're having these conversations with our curricular partners about what is SDI and does that overlap with UDL.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not in those meetings, so that's
It's a
why
great
I
question.
came.
It's a great question.
I came with my own questions, and I'm happy to converse about
Really good.
Real quick, it is 8 o'clock. Does anybody feel we need to extend anything, or are we going to wrap it up for tonight? We'll get notes on all this stuff kind of combined.
Oh man, it's
No, I'm having too much fun.
Did I miss anything?
Did you see that Jamie Shoplin, that she volunteered to do the RFP? It was in the chat.
Oh yeah, was there anything else in the chat we should say?
IT.
That skill set.
Kim is really selling her transition there. I love it, Kim. You're a salesman.
I especially need parents. You hear that, Laura?
I didn't even, because I got a love number again. I love it. I know when she called that. You got electronic copy and send it to everybody.
Your exit card as well.
I like control.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Does anyone see a pen that says Patty Comans on it? Patty has lost her pen and it has her name.
It's in that.
There you go. What is lost is now found, Patty.
No, but slow motion.
I see the hero.
Right.
Almost.
Does anyone want to recommend that we adjourn? Are we wrapping it up?
They kind of long.
I know.
They're like, see ya.
You're thinking,
It's an official meeting. Someone has to make a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aye.